There have been this argument on which feed is best to give to your pigs, whether it's dry feed or wet feed. It has been debated repeatedly, and some people have even come to my channel, like my DM, to be like, okay, which is better? Some people have answered them, while some people I did not really talk to them. I did not reply. So in this video, I just want to reply everybody. I want to just say my own opinion and tell you my own reasons why I think this is better or this is better. Okay, so I have carefully done the research, and I'm just going to be like saying everything in this video, so make sure to watch this video to the end. Don't skip. If you skip, you might miss out on some little information, and you might mistake what I would say. Okay, so don't skip. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Onyi Udoyo. On this channel, I talk about animal farming, pig and fish especially. In here, I give helpful tips on how to succeed in the business, how to make money from this business. So if this is the kind of channel you like, if this is the kind of content you want to watch, please don't hesitate to subscribe, like, and share. Turn your post notification bell for new videos to come, and don't forget to drop your comments on this video. Okay, so let's just get right back into today's video. Personally, I feel dry at the farm. I feed dry, and that's because of the kind of ingredients that we mix. If you feed wet with the kind of ingredients that we mix, it will leach off some of the concentrates in the feed. Making the feed like lose some of its vitamins and some things that is necessary for the pig's growth. So with the amount of feed we mix, if we feed wet or add water, it will spoil the feed. And it is also imperative you add a little bit of water to make it a little bit wet, because of some respiratory issues. Like if you notice, or you stay where some of these farms that they feed dry, you see that the pigs are eating and coughing. So this is the reason I feed dry at the farm. Okay, I don't mix water, because if I mix water, it's going to leach off some of the concentrate I put in the feed. Okay, so that's why I totally feed dry. So another reason why I don't use wet feed is because it easily spoils. Like it spoils like after mixing all those things, and maybe the pigs are not able to like finish them, it will just spoil. Do you understand? It will spoil, and it is, for me, I feel like there's no need like feeding wet feed, because most farmers, why they feed wet feed is because of water. Maybe in their farm they don't have enough water, so they will just like pour the little they have into the feed and make it rise. After it rise, they will start feeding their pigs, and they don't bother giving their pigs water after that. Okay, so I feel like, to me, since I have enough water in the farm, there is actually no need mixing water and feed together, because it doesn't last. It doesn't last. The shelf life is not long. And also, what's the need? Since there's enough water, give them, for me, give them dry, and you know still give them water. Okay, so that's just like the major reason why I don't feed wet. Wet feeding and dry feeding is good. Like personally, I don't think I'm going to condemn anyone at all. Okay, it is good though. It is good. This reason I just gave you now is just the reason why I don't feed wet. I feed dry. Okay, but I'm still going to give you like the pros and the cons of wet and dry feeding, so it's now left for you to choose the one that you want. Feeding wet or feeding dry is fine. It's absolutely fine. Okay, it's okay. It just depends on what you are targeting, what you target, like what you want for those pigs. What you want for those pigs is just the reason why you should either choose wet or you should either choose dry feeding. Okay, so if I give you the pros and cons, then you can now sit down and know if it is wet feeding that you want for yourself, or it is dry feeding that you want for yourself. Okay, so now for wet feeding can improve growth performance and carcass quality, like their meat, the quality of their meat. Okay, that is just what it actually means. Okay, and also it requires more management and carries a higher risk of spoilage, especially at like during the hot weather. Like when it's hot weather, like you need to like manage it properly, and the risk of it spoiling is really high. Okay, in fact, generally, whether hot or cold weather, for me, the risk of it spoiling is high. So why would I just come and start mixing up feed, and at the end of the day it will spoil? For me, it's just waste of money. Okay, so another like pros like for wet feeding is for farmers that don't have water in their farm always, like the little one that they have, when they mix it with their dry feed, like it will be enough for them. Like you don't need to come and start running around for water, giving them water again. It will be enough for them. Okay, another thing wet feeding does is it also boosts their appetites, and it makes them want to eat more. Okay, it boosts their appetites, and that is why most farmers like give their pigs wet feed in the morning, and later during the day they give their pigs dry feed. It boosts their appetites. Okay, and also it decreases water wastage. Like when you feed with wet feeding, like you don't waste so much water. Okay, you don't waste so much water, like giving them water, or going or allowing them to like take water from the nipple drinkers, and sometimes they end up like wasting it, or playing with the tap. Okay, like the last thing I need to like point out is wet feeding must be prepared hygienically, just to avoid toxins. If you cannot keep it clean while preparing your wet feed, or while mixing the feed for your pigs, there is no need giving them wet feeding, because it can breed something else, okay, and cause harm to your pigs. Okay, so that's like the pros of wet feeding. So I'm going to talk about the cons now, like the disadvantage of wet feeding. It easily spoils and causes diseases to your pigs if it is not fresh. One of the disadvantage of wet feeding. Two, it requires strict hygiene and frequent cleaning. Whenever you are going to mix that feed, that environment, after mixing, you give it to them and you clean that place. Okay. Three, the pigs must finish the one that they have eaten before you mix another one. Now in this wet feeding, you don't need to go and like, one of the bad this thing is you can't store it, right? You can't store it for like 3 days, you can't store it for like 4 days. No, once you mix the quantity that you're sure they're going to finish, and you give it to them. If you see that they need food, or they need more food, you mix again and you give it to them. Do you understand? Wet feed, you don't mix so much that you know that they're not going to be able to finish. Like you can't store it for a very long time. Another thing I'm going to say is, the last one is, preparing and dispensing wet feed is labor intensive, especially in a farm that's that don't have enough workers or enough laborers. Like it is very stressful. Like you mix every day, you need to mix feed with water and give them. And if you have too many pens that you need to like dispense this feed, like imagine if it's just one or two persons that is doing it, to over 100 pens. Like it is really really stressful. So that's just another disadvantage of wet feeding. Okay, so now let's go to the pros and the cons of dry feeding. Now the pros and the cons of dry feed. One, dry feed is easy to store. After mixing, you can store them for as long as that place doesn't contain water that will just touch the feed and make it spoil. Okay, so as long as that place is cool, dry, where you store them, it can stay for as long as, okay, as long as you store it properly. That's one. Also, it requires less labor. It is less prone to spoilage. Pigs that is on dry feeding, they eat longer. They tend to eat longer. Now one thing, now if you remember, I said in wet feeding, if you feed them wet at first, they have appetite, it boosts their appetite. That's why some farmers give them first, then later in the day they give them dry. Okay, so with dry feeding, they eat longer. Another thing for dry feeding, it has better feed conversion efficiency and health due to lower pathogen risk. Like for dry feeding, like when you feed them dry feeding, like as long as you got a good formula, and there's something you're targeting, if you're targeting for them to be like big and all of that, If you feed them dry feeding, it converts that feed. You will see it in their body. You see it in their body, because naturally if, pigs are good converter of feed. Whatever you give to them, that's what you see in their body. But for dry feeding, it goes a long way, unlike wet feeding. It goes a long way. Okay, so that is it for dry feeding. That is one of the advantage of dry feeding. Now if you want to feed your pigs dry feed, this I just said now is one of the reasons why you should feed your pigs dry feed. So now let's talk about the disadvantage. So one of the disadvantage for pigs that are newly, that you newly introduced to dry feed, like when you start feeding them that dry feed, they may not be able to like drink water on their own. Imagine pigs that you've taught them how to eat wet feeding, and you don't give them water again. That is the water that is in the food, is so that's what you use to train them. Now if you now start feeding them with dry feed, they might not be able to like drink water on their own. Okay, they might not be able to drink water on their own. It will be hard for them to drink water on their own, and it will now lead to dehydration for the pigs, which is not good. Another disadvantage of dry feeding, some feed may find dry feeding less appealing, which would then like affect the rate at which they consume food, and also affect their growth rate. Another disadvantage of dry feeding can create dust, which can also be a respiratory irritant for the pigs. Like it will, before you know it, to trigger them, and they'll start having respiratory this disease and all of that. Okay, so that is like another disadvantage of dry feed. Or that is like all this I just mentioned now is the disadvantage of dry feeding. Okay, so please, like both feeding is good. If I'm to say, I will not condemn this to promote this. No, I will not condemn to promote. Both of them are good. It just depends on what you want. It just depends on what you're targeting. Just know the one that you want, choose the best one for you, and use it. Okay, I'm not condemning anyone. No one is better than the other. Both of them are good. Like I said earlier, choose what you want, and use them. Some people even do collabo. So that is just it. I hope you have gotten value from this video. If you like this video, or if you have any question for me, please drop it in the comment section. If you want to speak to me directly, you can reach out to me on my Facebook page at Real Onyi Udoi, my Instagram at Onyi Udoi. Okay, so reach out to me there and we'll talk. And if you like this video, don't hesitate to give me a thumbs up. Like this video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your post notification bell for new videos to come. Okay, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.